There's a weird vibe up 45. I'll tell you what it is. Plus the bit of DeMeco Ryans. How many times did he say this? Plus the things to watch Monday night. Let's go inside the locker room.
It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital.
It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker, on the scene daily, live nightly, 10:30, live in the morning, SNL at 9 o'clock. Be sure to subscribe, right along. There's something weird going on up 45 when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. I think we kind of get a pulse of what's going on because no matter what the record is or anything like that, the Cowboys are going to generate a lot of national attention and they're going to generate a lot of national dialogue, and people are going to get bogged down, for better or worse, with Dallas Cowboys talk. But I just talked to some of the people that I respect the most that cover the squad, John Machada, Saad Youssef, Kevin Turner, on their podcast. And I don't think that I've ever seen in my entire life, and I followed this the majority of my life, I don't think I've ever seen as dismal of a mood when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys as what I've witnessed. None of them think that the Cowboys even cover the spread. None of them think it's a possibility that the Cowboys even compete with the Texans. And they've been watching the Texans as close to anyone. So it has me wondering, is this too good to be true? The Texans this season, they've won one game by over a score. And that was the game against the New England Patriots where it kind of spiraled out of control in the second half. But actually was kind of close for a large portion of the game. Or is this a game where the Texans, some of the problems that we've seen, they continue to go? The more I look at it, the more I think that the Dallas Cowboys offense. So if the Texans are going to lose this game, I think it's going to have to look a little bit like the second half against Detroit, where CJ Stroud's making mistakes and the Texans are giving the Cowboys opportunities, because Cooper Rush is not going to be a quarterback that is going to beat you no matter what. This is and when Cooper Rush was winning games, it was 2 years ago when the Cowboys actually had a pretty good supporting cast around him. They don't have that. Their running back situation is the worst in the league. Their receiver situation, 2 down, is probably the worst in the league. Their offensive line is not good. But the one thing that they do have is one of the key matchups that I think that we need to watch in this game. And it's a 2-part matchup, and it's the one thing that I think could start the Cowboys that could make the Cowboys competitive in this game, and it's the Micah Parsons factor, starting with the obvious Micah Parsons versus the Texans offensive line. Micah Parsons lined up against Titus Howard. Micah Parsons lined up against Laramie Tunsil. If they choose to move Micah Parsons in the inside, Micah Parsons versus any 3 of those interior guys, that's a terrifying thought. And Micah Parsons is the type of guy that can single-handedly win a team a game. The other factor to this, and the other element as we localize it, is Micah Parsons versus CJ Stroud. These guys love to compete. They love to argue. They're friends. They have the same agent. They love to go back and forth. We saw them in the charity basketball game where Micah Parsons was the MVP of the game. I know it's just a charity basketball game, but I think these guys, if these guys are walking in the street, they're going to end up racing. That's how competitive they are. And when you don't have much to play for and you're Micah Parsons and you're kind of in the headlines right now, people are criticizing you for throwing your coach under the bus. You get the bright lights on Monday night. You get a favorable matchup against a offensive line that is one of the laughingstocks of the NFL, and you're facing a guy that you want to sack more than anyone because he's one of your buddies and y'all have that competitive relationship. I would say the one thing to fear if you're a Texans fan and you say, okay, well, the Texans damn sure aren't covering the 8, and the way that the Texans have handled themselves and the way that they've played, I have no confidence that this is going to be anything other than, at best, a close win. At worst, just one of the worst losses that we've seen in a while for the Texans. There's a lot of people who feel that way. There's a lot of people who feel that that's just kind of where the Texans are. And if that happens, I don't think we have to look any further than number 11. And this goes back to the Bobby Slowik factor, where if DeMeco Ryans had to deal with the equivalent of a Micah Parsons, like they have one guy that you have to worry about on offense, really two if you count Jake Ferguson, but CeeDee Lamb, I think that CeeDee Lamb is someone that DeMeco Ryans can take out. He might do it with Derek Stingley, which brings us to another matchup, Stingley versus CeeDee. Now, I put the question mark there because I do wonder, is DeMeco going to follow around CeeDee Lamb? He's a hard guy to follow. They line him up in the slot a lot. Inside, outside, a lot of motion. They do a good job of moving CeeDee Lamb around. Do you put Derek Stingley on him? I think that needs to be considered even more so than usual because Kamari Lassiter has a concussion, and usually more times than not, when a guy has a concussion in 1 week, he misses the next week. So do you want to put one of these other corners on CeeDee Lamb? I mean, Cooper Rush is not that good of a quarterback, but if D'Angelo Ross or something is on CeeDee Lamb, who they just brought back, or Jeff Okudah, you got to like their chances of being able to make that work. So does Derek Stingley follow CeeDee Lamb? But I think it all goes back to the Parsons effect. People are asking if Okudah's back yet. He's been practicing. I don't know. I don't know if Okudah's any good. I don't know if Okudah can play. Be honest with you. I don't know how good of a player Okudah is. There's a reason he's on his third team. So I don't know about all that. But I do think that the Micah Parsons factor is real. Micah Parsons versus CJ Stroud, Micah Parsons versus the offensive line. I don't think anyone on this offensive line can check Micah Parsons. And if you really go through and you look at who the Texans have faced with how bad as the offensive line has been, they really haven't faced like elite guys. Like there hasn't been like a Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa. Like there hasn't been a situation where they faced elite guys. The guy that had the best performance against the Texans individually was probably Jonathan Grenard. And Jonathan Grenard's kind of, I mean, it's kind of the same build as Micah Parsons. A little bit quicker, a little bit shiftier than the average large D end. That's what Micah Parsons has. And like Micah Parsons will have, Jonathan Grenard's had a little bit of extra motivation to get to CJ Stroud, another one of his buddies, and take advantage of this offensive line. Will it be enough for the Cowboys to win? I think a lot of other things will have to go their way given the quarterback situation and given the offensive situation. But that's the one thing to watch is the Micah Parsons thing. It is the Locker Room #1 source for Texans digital content. Be sure to subscribe, be sure to like, be sure to ride along. Tomorrow they return to practice. We'll hear from DeMeco Ryans. We'll hear from the players as well in the Texans locker room. Richard Lozano swarm in the super chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
He says Micah and Diggs to Houston are one of their guards? ? I don't know. They're going to have to pay some guys. I don't know if they're going to be able to afford Micah. Micah's about to get some serious bread. I don't think the Texans need corners. So I would doubt that. Zach Martin's probably on the back end. So no, I don't know about all that. The trade deadline is gone, so probably not. Yeah, Dallas has nothing whatsoever. They have nothing. They have no run game. They have no quarterback. They have no offensive line. The tight end Ferguson's not doing what he should have been doing, and CeeDee Lamb's a little bit banged up, and he's really their only threat. That's it. That's all they got. This is by far the worst offense that the Texans has faced. Yes, I think it is. I had to think about that when I said it. You can maybe say Indianapolis, but I don't even know that Cooper Rush is better than Anthony Richardson, like as far as being able to make you pay. Because the one thing that the Texans can be perhaps vulnerable to is a deep ball or a quarterback extending and making some sort of play. That's not going to be Cooper Rush. It's going to be on script. It's going to have to be something where you scheme them open. And if you're going to scheme guys open against the Texans, it's going to have to be because you take advantage of what they got in the intermediate coverage game. And when you have DeMeco Ryans is going to put forth as good of a scheme effort defensively as you put together offensively. So I don't really see that happening. The other game or inside the game to look at is Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz returning to Dallas to face his former squad. And Dalton Schultz is an interesting case study because right now the Texans, they haven't really utilized their tight ends. And some people say, Dalton Schultz looks washed up. He looks stiff. What are they doing with Dalton Schultz? I just think at the tight end position, you have two guys that are being asked to block that aren't really that good of blockers in Dalton Schultz and Cade Stover. It's a damn shame for Stover. Maybe he gets a little bit stronger. I think he has the makeup and more of a willingness to do it than Schultz. But the Texans don't really have complementary pieces at tight end right now. Like, ideally, you want tight ends that can do different things, or tight ends that can, at the very least, block. The Texans' tight end position is such; it's kind of repetitive with Stover and Schultz. There's not a lot of explosiveness. If they're wide open, maybe they'll make a play. Who knows how much you can actually do with the offensive lineman? But I'll say this: I think Dalton Schultz. I know CJ and Dalton Schultz are close. I would look for CJ to at least try to give Dalton Schultz the opportunity to make some plays today. Or Monday, I should say. Because CJ kind of has that type of feel. And Dalton Schultz is going to be amped up for this game. Because I don't think he likes the way that things ended in Dallas. And I don't think he likes the way that Dallas fans have spoken on him. And I don't think he likes the way that the headline porn emerged when he was in Dallas, when he would speak to media. And I think it kind of boiled over in Houston. We'll get to talk to Dalton this week. He's going to have to speak this week. But that's another matchup to look at. The other one, we mentioned CeeDee Lamb. If we're looking at the storylines for Texans versus Cows on Monday, Nico Collins is expected to practice tomorrow. So you might get a look at CeeDee Lamb and Nico Collins, two elite receivers. I know that I call Nico, he was performing at an elite level, but been missing time like he usually did. Little Nico versus CD action we might get. And the Nico factor is going to be interesting. Like, there's a chance that we don't even recognize this offense with Nico back. And we start to understand and grasp maybe the importance that Nico has to this offense. Now, I don't think that excuses completely the manner in which Bobby Slowik has functioned as an offensive coordinator. I don't think that completely excuses that.
Damn it, Bobby.
But there's a chance that as soon as Nico Collins comes back, everything looks better. The run game, the offensive line, the pass game, everything. CJ Stroud looks more comfortable. You see some quick game, all that. That's very possible when it comes to this offense. So that's something else to keep an eye on. And I do anticipate Nico Collins playing this Monday, unless, of course, DeMeco Ryans continues the ongoing bit in the bit coaching and the bit management, which he has put on display. Let's hear from DeMeco. This was DeMeco yesterday. Here was what DeMeco had to say. We'll get to the supers. We'll get to some other things about this game in a sec. But let's hear from DeMeco Ryans, and let's play a little game. How many times does DeMeco say execute? The over-under before this was 5.5. Let's hear from DeMeco Ryans and what he has to say. Here is the head coach of the Houston Texans, DeMeco Ryans.
You and sort of take it accordingly.
Any game plan, you talk about adjustments, I think
that's always a factor when you talk about scouting yourself, the self-scouts, and also scouting your opponents. So you're always looking at tendencies and things to change, things to add or do something a little different. But it's at the end of the day, you still have to execute whatever changes you
There's
make.
one?
But that's part of any game is about, adjusting.
Look at the inefficiency of the offense in the second half. What stood out?
With the inefficiencies, just not only offensively but defensively, it's just a matter of just us focusing in and being on the details of our job.
What goes into an evaluation
Thanks,
of
Coach.
how you guys operate on offense, and when you evaluate play calling, who all's involved in that? Is that the rest of the staff looking at Bobby? Is that Bobby going back over his stuff? How involved are you in something like that?
Yeah, when it comes to our calls and all those things, it's just at the end of the day, myself, Bobby, Frank, we call the games, and as we call the games, we are coaching our players to execute what we call the right way. So it's not only just the play call, but it's also how we executing the calls in the right manner.
Players normally like to have a routine. How do you say the team has adapted to playing in a Thursday, then Sunday night, now Monday, and all the schedule that comes to adapt?
It's typical NFL season for me. Is schedule changes. You play Monday, Sunday, Thursday.
Except last year you didn't. You played all Sunday noon games, except the final week of the season. You were Saturday at it. So it's not really a typical NFL season. This is very new.
We adjust our schedule accordingly, and guys go out and play. Guys are built for this. That's why they're here in the NFL, because they can handle all those different things that happens with the schedule.
DeMeco, I know you touched a little bit on the night match you had on Sunday. Since you've looked at the film, what else has stood out in that game and just in general lately about his game and what he's bringing for you guys?
The thing that stood out about Metch is just his progression over these past few weeks, just seeing him play with more speed, jumping off the football, running his routes, being more decisive with his route running, and also just beating man coverage with his feet. He took the practice, he took the coaching points, he took it to the field, and he executed the right way, and he showed up and made plays, especially big on.
Yeah, it's a typical NFL season. They got 5 primetime games. They didn't have a single one last year except the flex. All noon.
On third down, and even we knew they would play aggressive man coverage going into the game. So we talked about it all week. You're going to have to make competitive catches, and that's no better play he made than in the end zone on the touchdown. I mean, the defender has his hands in there, but he goes up with aggressive hands and makes a competitive catch. So I'm just really proud of just his improvement and him taking, the coaching, taking the practice to the field on Sunday.
Do you think that improvement has allowed him to kind of create a larger opportunity for himself in the offense moving forward?
Just keep owning whatever opportunities you get, right? That's what it's all about. Whether it's larger, small, whatever the opportunity is, it's just about maximizing that opportunity. It doesn't matter how many it is. What are you doing with the ops that you get?
With Nico being activated and then not playing, was there any setback?
No setback with Nico. That was just a game time decision.
What did you see from the Titus Howard, CJ kind of, fumble kind of exchange? What happened there?
What went into the game time decision? I don't know. He was kind of ready to move past that, but I should have just came back. But he's trying to just get through that, I guess.
With that play, it was to start the play, we had an issue with the cadence. We all weren't on the same page with the cadence. Guy got off the ball quick. We were late off the ball, and they were able to get the sack on CJ. And I'm not sure what happened. From my perspective, it looked like Titus was just trying to make sure he held CJ, and it's just something that he wasn't trying to take the ball. I would say if you're speculating there, he wasn't trying to take the football. He's just trying to protect CJ.
Yeah, he didn't let me finish. I don't know what's going on with him. It's all good though. He's a little tired. I don't think DeMeco slept.
What do you say? You guys have a fair amount of young players, and when you've been around the league long enough to know that there are these ups and downs. How do you help them to stay? I don't want to say focused, but I guess positive through these kind of valleys as you're trying to move forward.
Yeah, you have to. That's typical NFL season. You have to grow through the season, and are you getting better throughout the season? And it's my message to our guys. Like, we went, toe-to-toe with a really good team and expected to win the game. Didn't play winning football or make winning plays in the second half to finish the game, but that's how the season goes. Like, how are we learning from this game and from our past games? How are we learning from that, and how are we growing? Like, you can learn from it, but are you growing and making the necessary corrections, to get stronger as you go through an NFL season? And for our young guys, it's much longer than college seasons, but it's just about just attacking each day and with the right mindset with our guys and not getting too caught up in the grand scheme of things. It's just about focusing just one day at a time, one play at a time. That's what it's about.
You referenced the blocking the other day. You made a line change. Where do you think it made strides in terms of the pass blocking? Where do you think run blocking there was maybe a reason why the run blocking wasn't what it normally is?
Yeah, with the change on our offensive line, when it came to the protection, I thought the guys did a better job of protecting this past week. And with the run blocking, it was too many negative plays for us, where we have to definitely attack the line of scrimmage more, be more aggressive running off the football.
Coach, with a player like CJ, and to piggyback off of what Kim was asking, he's a player that takes a lot on his shoulders. He takes a lot of accountability for for good and the bad. How do you get him to not come into this situation this week trying to do too much?
Yeah, that's for all of us, right? Nobody can shoulder all the responsibility. For CJ, has 10 other guys around him, but just like those 10 other guys and CJ, all the defensive players, special teams, like, everybody has a job to do, right? And everybody is expected to do that job to the best of their ability, and it's just about everybody focusing on themselves, right? And if everybody execute and everyone plays the proper way and do their job the right way, then we'll be fine. Nobody needs to do more or less. Just do your job the right way.
With you guys activated Nico on Friday, practice on Friday, game time decision. Do you anticipate he'll practice tomorrow and practice the rest of the week?
Yeah, I anticipate him practicing.
There you go. So you talking about CJ, how do you think he's handled, not from a performance standpoint, but just over the past several weeks where he's had faced a lot of pressure, taking a lot of sacks? How do you think he's managing that?
Yeah, he's done a good job. I mean, we had some issues there, with the protection, and it's just, he's made some good decisions with it, and with that protection, it also involves him as well, right? It's CJ, it's the offense, it's everybody playing together, right? Making sure we're operating on time, and it's, I think he's handled everything really as best as he can. Being a young player, he's handled it really well. He always carries himself the right way, always has the right attitude. You talk about a guy who, shoulders a lot of the blame, shoulders a lot, good and bad. He's that's what a leader looks like, and that's why CJ, second-year player, that's why he's a leader for our team. Just because he's built the right way, he's able to withstand, the storms that come. He's able to withstand it, and that's why I really, really love him. I love his mindset and his attitude, how he attacks every day.
How much do you think Nico returning helps a lot of the issues that you've had on offense the last 4 weeks?
Anytime you get a starting receiver back, and Nico, a guy who's been, before he was out, he was the top receiver in the league. So I think anytime you get him back, it's going to help everybody.
How Bobby and how Frank are involved as far as the coaching staff is concerned and call the plays. Do you ever take any I don't want to say advice, but like Gerard, is Gerard involved in some of the play calling as well?
Yeah, when it comes to the game planning, all of our offensive coaches have input on plays, suggestions, all of those things. So every coach is suggesting whether it's run game. Everybody has different phases of the game, different situations, third down, 2 minute, whatever it may be. So all coaches have input on putting the game plan together, and they put it together, together.
Y'all are being silly, man.
I have some input as well on things I've seen, of things I may suggest to Bobby as well when it comes to the game planning mode.
You mentioned before that, a lot of the times the second half you always mention, like, players got to make plays. How much does adding a guy like Nico help you guys kind of snap out the lulls in the second half? Because feels like a lot of times teams again they make a small slight adjustments, and that's kind of moving the coaches from the equation. Players got to make plays. How much does adding a guy like Nico help alleviate some of the issues in the second half?
Yeah, I think, first off, the biggest thing, coaches make adjustments all throughout the game. So it's not like a big second half adjustment that happens in games. Defenses, they don't run one coverage the first half and come out and run a different coverage. That's not what it is, right? They're always rolling different calls, and you have to be able to make plays based on whatever you're seeing from that perspective. So it's not so much about, for me, not the adjustments. I look at us first and foremost, right? A lot of people can focus on whatever adjustments defense makes, but it's about us and our focus and our execution, and I'll continue to speak about that because that's the only thing that matters to me is the Texans and how we execute and how we operate. And right now, first half, we had some really good things that happened. It wasn't all perfect, and the second half of the game, we didn't execute the right way. We couldn't get plays started. We got penalties. We got negative plays. We're not blocking the right people on our assignments. So let's do that right, and then let's see how we can play and finish in the second half.
I know you've got a quick amount of time to make the decision after the third down incompletion. It's 4th and 4. You guys opt for the field goal. How much consideration was given to keeping the offense out there and maybe trying to never give the Lions back? And how much consideration was also given?
Yeah, all of those things go into consideration. Emi made a long one on the other side. He made it from right there before. So, I made a decision to go with the field goal.
Last one. In your experience, when guys aren't executing, the play. Why did, in your experiences in the past, it doesn't have to be particularly this one, but why does that happen?
That's football. Every game, nobody's perfect. Guys, there are always miscues. That's why big plays happen. Most time big plays happen in football is one side is probably screwing something up, and it's about taking advantages of the miscues that happen on either side of the offense or defense or special teams for that matter. Like that's the game, right? And that's the history of the game, right? Everybody has a responsibility, a role. Everybody's assigned to be on a certain guy in different plays, but guys, at some point, guys mess up here and there, and you take advantage of it and you make them pay. All right.
All right, there you go. Execution. I think we got to 6. Johnny says he wishes someone would ask about the 3rd and 10 halfback draw was. That's a Slowik question. That's a Bobby Slowik question. The decisions like to go on 4th, that's DeMeco, but that's a Bobby Slowik question. So maybe he gets asked that on Friday when he speaks. Typically speaks on Thursday, but he's speaking on Friday. DeMeco seems a little bit, I don't know if he's stressed. I don't know if he's worn out. People are talking about eye contact and stuff. DeMeco doesn't care. I mean, he's just kind of probably frustrated that they're losing. I mean, look, if you put together a masterpiece and it ends up getting completely destroyed, how are you going to feel? Like, how are you going to feel? Like when let's say you're doing a school project, and let's say that you put together a masterpiece of a school project, and then as soon as you're getting dropped off at school, you walk in and you trip and fall, or it rains and the project gets ruined. Your masterpiece gets ruined. Your A plus effort gets ruined. That's what Bobby Slowik has done to DeMeco Ryans 2 of the last 4 weeks. That's what he's done. I wouldn't be happy. It's not like he's getting berated by the media, though. So that's not that. But would you be happy if what you oversee, defense, whether guys are out or not, whether you have Will Anderson, whether you're playing two of the best teams in the league, if your offense can't even show a pulse, how are you going to feel? He lives this stuff, man. And I know he's very mild-mannered. He's a captain. He's always going to be. But, yeah, of course he's pissed off. Of course he's pissed off. Why would you not be? I think if the defense were struggling, I think we would probably see DeMeco Ryans go up there and have a little bit more to say, because that's his level of expertise. but he's trusted Bobby Slowik, and he's trusted that system to at least have somewhat of a pulse and not be so player dependent to where you look completely lost when Nico Collins is out there, or you're unable to make adjustments. Of course he's pissed. It's nothing personal, like eye contact. There's multiple no eye contacts. But of course he's pissed. He does seem to be hearing a little bit more noise, though. I mean, I go back to when he said, there's a narrative that we're not a good football team. I don't know who said that. But for someone who doesn't hear the outside noise, I don't know where he's hearing that. But of course he's pissed. Why would he not be? He can't come out there and fully explain what's going on with the offense. If it were defense, he would probably be able to give us more to say. It's got to be fixed. And the reality is he can step up, he can moderate, but it's not really completely in his control. I think you have an elite defense. He oversees an elite defense. Doesn't matter whether you have your best player, doesn't matter whether you don't have three of your best players. They're going to have a chance. But if you put together a game plan and the game plan was flawless and you force 5 turnovers, you force a quarterback to throw more interceptions in one game than he's thrown all season, and you lose by 3 points in a game in which you don't score a single point in the second half, how the hell are you going to feel going up there? I don't blame him for being pissed off. I'd be pissed off too.
Damn it, Bobby.
The question is he going to be able to make changes? And that's what we get to see with young coaches. There's going to be flaws with every head coach. There's tons. They all go through it. Andy Reid was considered a dope when it came to clock management for a long time. There's a lot of weaknesses. Maybe his weakness is the offensive side of the rock and being able to adjust and oversee it. Maybe that's what's developing in front of us. But I don't expect DeMeco to go up there and be happy. Not at all. AJ on the super, when you bring it on Hannah, that would be good TV. Man, Cal and Hannah did too damn much. They're like Kevin Hart and The Rock. They need to just chill. I think they've done a good job of chilling. They were doing a little too much, quite frankly. And I mean that maybe sometime, but I don't know. That was kind of watered down to me, as much as they were doing. I'm glad they're not doing as much, especially when they go on and they got the creepy laughing with the guy who fishes and sells watered down sauce. That was a little much. But they were doing everything. So I don't know. Maybe someday, who knows? Paul says, you think that Will Anderson Jr. be playing Monday night? I don't know. I would be cautious with Will Anderson. I think it's going to be erring on the side of caution, because if this defense is elite, this defense can be completely elite when healthy and there's no pressure. Like he said that Nico Collins was a game time situation. I wonder what, like, game time decision, but there was no setback. Didn't he just confirm my theory right there? Like, you think about that. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but didn't he just kind of confirm what I said when you're being careful with Nico? Like, was it because the Colts lost? Because he literally just said, and again, I think that DeMeco doesn't tell the truth all the time when he's at the podium. There's no way he thinks that Titus wasn't trying to rip the ball out of CJ's hands. It was clear as day. We've seen examples of that working. I really don't have a problem with it if it would have happened. Let's see what happens with it. Whatever. But it's worse if he wasn't. Like, that's what that looks like when you're trying to hold someone up. That's uncoordinated. I mean, that's insane. I don't think he believes that, and I don't have a problem with someone going up there and telling a fib that's a coach. I do wonder this, and there was an interesting theory that was thrown out that I want to get to in a second with DeMeco Ryans. And I wonder if something that we thought was gone is kind of still around with DeMeco, and I wonder if it's kind of getting in his head a little bit. This is just a discussion theory that we'll get to in a sec. But first, let's swarm to the super chat. Kevin has a comment / question.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm. DeMeco's a damn good coach. He put a lot of trust in his offensive staff, fact, and they aren't delivering. DeMeco will get it fixed, but probably not this year, unfortunately. See, that sucks. That sucks. Now, tomorrow on SNL, I'm going to go through like 3 things that you can do in situations that the Texans are in right now. I think something can be done. It's just going to have to be player driven. And that's really it. Because Bobby Slowik, it's not just that the offense, and this is why I always try to use like tangible reasons with Bobby Slowik. Like a lot of times there's some people who, if the offense sucks and they don't produce, you automatically blame the play caller. And there's been games this year where I've been like, well, I don't know that Bobby Slowik could have done much because the offensive line wasn't capable and the wide receivers weren't getting open. So I try to go game for game. But some of the situational things that Bobby Slowik is doing, it makes me lose hope, because those are the types of situations where when you are playing Kansas City, when you are playing Baltimore, when you're playing Pittsburgh, when you're playing Buffalo in January, those are the type of situations where one dumbass decision like that costs you a game. When you're running the ball on 3rd and 10 to settle for a 50-plus yard field goal, that's a dumbass decision. The whole display in Green Bay, that was a dumbass decision. Not throwing the ball before the 2-minute warning, that was a dumbass decision. Last year against the Bengals, throwing the ball on 3rd and 4th and not running it, and then the interception that almost cost you the game, that's a dumbass decision. So I'm not one of these guys who every time the offense sucks, I say, damn it, Bobby.
Damn it, Bobby.
But I do think there's been certain situations that are just unforgivable, especially for someone who's supposed to be as smart as Bobby Slowik. He's a young offensive coordinator too, so maybe he's going through his growing pains. Those just aren't growing pains to me. Like, if you told me, hey, this guy completely freezes up when he's making second half decisions, that to me is forgivable. You can tell me that, and I can say, okay, well, he's going to get better as time goes on, and once he gets Nico and stuff, that you're gonna figure that out. When you're doing some of the stuff that he's doing, that's the troubling part for me with Bobby Slowik. It's not that it's not as simple as, well, this offense isn't producing and this offensive line isn't. It's when you're doing some of the moronic things that Bobby Slowik has done, that's the troubling thing. Because it's elementary. It really is. I don't pretend that any of us could put together some sort of game plan. I don't pretend that it's easy to coach. I don't pretend that there's like some sort of common sense. I've never been someone to question a lot of things. There's a lot of things that are off limits, and the work and the grind that these coaches put in, I have a lot of respect for. But just the fundamental dumbassery that Bobby Slowik has displayed this year, it's troubling. And it's got to be troubling for DeMeco Ryans. He's not going to come out and say it, but it's troubling, some of the stuff that he's done. It's just next level dumb. Like it's tied. Like Titus Howard doing what he did. I've seen what that looks like. We've seen it with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams did it. Some offensive linemen have grabbed the ball from their quarterback, and sometimes it's crazy. They make like 6, 7, 8 yards, whatever it is. I even understand what Titus Howard, what he was trying to do. It didn't work out. It looked stupid, but he's trying to be a hero. He's trying to make a play. He's trying to do what you've seen Lyman and what you've seen Caleb Williams doing with. It was dumb. And he hasn't played well, so he's kind of an easy target. Joe Mixon did that. We wouldn't think too much of it. But Titus Howard right now with his play and with really the frustration over this offensive line, he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt. That's just reality situation. I think Titus knows that too. Titus said, people will stop talking about us once we start playing better. He knows better. But I understand on the surface what he was trying to do. He was trying to strip the ball, make some yardage, whatever. Long shot, but yeah, that's what he's trying to do. And if he gets the ball, then maybe we see Titus Howard get 7 yards and we're sitting there saying, oh, look at that. Look at Titus. Oh, former quarterback, blah, blah, blah. I get it. That's what he's trying to do. Be better if he would block better, but that's what he's trying to do. When you run a draw play on 3rd and 10 to settle for a 54-yard field goal, when you're playing the best offense in the NFL and you've already converted a 3rd and 16 and a 3rd and 10 earlier and the pass blocking's better, that's just stupid. That's just idiotic by Bobby Slowik. That's not a 3rd and 20. That's not a 3rd and 30 where there's no chance of getting the first down. That's a 3rd and 10 with a quarterback that y'all insist is elite. And you're just saying we're going to kick a 53, 56-yard field goal. And this is weeks after you ran a play that appeared that you were trying to get close when you had a 39-yard field goal and you didn't even make them use a timeout. There's no method to the dumbassery of Bobby Slowik the last few weeks. Maybe it's just like a couple of brain farts, but that's what's troubling. You're trying to get a first down. You're trying to end the game. You haven't run the ball effectively at all. It's been the worst that you've run the ball. You really haven't ran the ball that well outside of a few mix and runs in a long time. And on 2nd down, you decide to just run the ball and take it down to the 2-minute warning and put yourself in position to where it's one play you have to convert instead of going with 2 plays. That's dumbassery. So that's the problem with Bobby Slowik. It's not that it's not working. Like you can see instances where there's like some sort of issue and you can blame it on personnel and stuff. It's just the silliness that he does. So when DeMeco goes up there and there's a lot of bits going on that execute all that, and he seems a little bit frustrated. I do have a theory on that though, that I'll get to in a second. But when you see that, I don't blame him for being pissed off. If we're doing a group project and I'm doing my part and you put me in charge of this and then someone else is in charge of that and we go up there and present and all of a sudden the grade's an F, yeah, I'm pissed. And then I'm having to go up there and speak for them because I'm the overseer. I was the group leader. That's what DeMeco has to do when he goes to the podium. That's why when people say, well, why didn't you ask him about the 3rd and 10? He didn't call the play. He put together a perfect defensive game plan. He didn't call the play. And the simplistic, well, he's the head coach, he's got to oversee it. Yeah, he probably does have to oversee it. He's not an offensive coordinator. He shouldn't have to babysit. Like, you hear coaches talk all the time, man, it's crazy that, some of these players come into the league and they don't know fundamentals. You don't really teach as much fundamentals in the league. Like, you will every once in a while, but for the most part, these guys should have an idea what fundamentals are. The mistakes that Bobby Slowik is making it's basic fundamentals. DeMeco Ryans should not have to babysit that. And he's letting him down, quite frankly. And DeMeco has to go up there and speak for it. Now, DeMeco's going to have to figure out, is this going to work? And if this continues, let's say Nico Collins comes back and this continues, then DeMeco Ryans is going to be faced with the first time in his time as head coach, he's going to have to make a tough decision. Do I change something? What does that change look like? I don't know, but of course he's pissed off. Why wouldn't he be? He's doing his part in the group project, and Bobby Slowik's dragging the grade down to an F. So we'll talk to Bobby on Friday, and he'll be asked these questions. But it's not DeMeco's situation. That would be like me asking Bobby Slowik, hey, what did you think of that blitz? It's divided. He's got to oversee it, and he's got to step in, but it's divided. And right now, Bobby Slowik is pretty much he's violating DeMeco Ryans' trust with the foolishness. And CJ Stroud isn't playing very well either. Now, you can almost, if you want to take this a step further, you can maybe say that every problem that this Texans team has is connected to the offensive line. And this offensive line is so ineffective that Bobby Slowik's not being put in position to do a good job because he did a better job with a more inexperienced, less consistent offensive line last year. Same thing with CJ Stroud. So it could just all end up at the center of the problem with the offensive line. And that could be it. Does Slowik get fired if we lose to Dallas? No, I don't think Bobby Slowik gets fired. I don't know how they handle that. But if you lose to Dallas, then the fan base is completely turned on you. There's an obsession with the Cowboys here. I pulled the snippet and I put the video up, but if you want to lose any benefit of the doubt, lose to a dog-butted Cowboys team with Cooper Rush at quarterback and no wide receivers. See how that goes. That's not good. And it's also not good to lose to teams. The one thing the Texans have been able to do is they beat teams as they should beat. Some people will roll their eyes at that, but that's a good thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do in the league. But if you want to, DeMeco's talked about there's like narratives and stuff, and he doesn't listen to the outside noise, but somehow he heard that some sort of noise about that I never heard anyone say they weren't good. Lose to the Cowboys and see how crazy things get around here. It'll be ugly. Corey on the super, appreciate you, my friend. Kevin Smith back on the soup. The offense needs to go through a rebuild this offseason, staff and players, similar to what DeMeco did with the defense this offseason. It's going to be harder, man. Like it's going to be harder because this offensive line, they invested so much in it, and here they are now. You're going to have to start paying guys. I think Stingley is going to be the guy that you're going to have to look at to pay. I don't know. Christian Harris, you might be able to get for a bargain because of how often he's been hurt. That might end up being something. Maybe they even let that play out. But yeah, we might be going through an offseason where they're revamping the offensive line and they're looking at receivers or something like that. Maybe more guys to make plays. Yeah, they need firepower on offense. Not to mention Diggs. I think you need to figure something out at wide receiver. I wouldn't bring back Diggs. Not at that age. They need some dynamic playmakers. And they definitely have to evaluate the offensive line. I agree with you. Rich Lowe, I really hope we give Keenum a try to call plays or QB coach. He's been in the system and did that. I know he knows CJ's plays and he likes those. Yeah, I think Keenum's eventually on the staff. I don't know if it's going to be this year. Yeah, we're too far in the season. The brain farts, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know if you describe them as that with Bobby Slowik. Yeah, and I don't think he does anything with Bobby either. I don't think so either. Mickey says Slowik is not getting fired. Get over it, people. I'm asking the question, man. Not that serious. Get over it. They're watching their team suck, man. It's not that big of a deal. I don't know what Stingley's going to get. That'll be interesting to see. He's playing very well, though. Probably going to have to hold it down this week. Going back to the DeMeco bit. I was trying to figure out what the hell I was talking about there. The DeMeco bit, like the paranoia, the obsessiveness with keeping secrets. Part of me just wonders if there's still a little bit of Patriot crap going on here, where you have Nick Caserio and that Patriot way, the bits of, don't let anyone know anything, and keep everything secret, and let's the old Jack Easterby, let's not put numbers on the practice jerseys and all that crap. I do wonder if there's a little bit of a Caserio influence where they're doing these like Nico Collins bits, and they're not saying who's playing, and guys are practicing on Friday. I do wonder if there's like a certain element of the Patriot way, Nick Caserio, where while many forms of the Patriot way are dead, maybe that's just something else that DeMeco Ryans has to think about, because it's just kind of interesting. And this is the team that obviously we follow 24/7. We're on the scene and we're talking about, but you look around the league, like teams are saying if guys are playing or if they're starting on Monday or Tuesday. And I really don't know how much it really impacts anything. Like you're not seeing a lot of this guy practiced on Friday and then he didn't play on Sunday and then he didn't play the next Sunday like Joe Mixon, or Nico Collins has been activated, and then we made the game time decision that he's not going to play. And it almost feels like it's DeMeco's ship, but there's almost like some sort of lingering cloud of the Patriots way gimmicky crap that goes on, and a little bit of the paranoia where it's like everybody's an enemy and everybody's an outsider, and we gotta rally around the team and all that. I do wonder, like when DeMeco Ryans and Nick Caserio are having these discussions, if maybe there's a certain element to that, because that was something that we thought was around for a while early in the Caserio era, and I never thought that the Patriot way thing was as like just based on Nick's actions was as extreme, although he did have the POS here, Jack Easterby, which kind of is the ultimate optimal example of that. But I do wonder if there's like a little bit of that's why DeMeco does things the way he does with the players and the status and stuff like that. I don't know. I just don't know what the payoff is for a lot of these things when it comes to the injuries and all that. But he did say that Nico Collins was practicing this week, which is great. He said he didn't have a setback. So we have that. So we'll see how that goes with the Texans. That is the bit. Nico Collins expected to practice tomorrow. We'll hear from DeMeco as well. Bobby Slowik's going to speak on Friday. Couple of dead storylines. We started this out talking about the storylines with the Texans and Cowboys. Two storylines that we missed out on were Dak Prescott versus CJ, which would have gotten a lot of hype, and then the Diggs bros, Stefon versus Trevon Diggs. We're not going to get that. So that's unfortunate. I thought that was going to be a pretty fun matchup to watch. We will not get that. We will get Nico Collins on the practice field tomorrow. Do we see Will Anderson or not? That's probably the attention. And then we could also see someone that DeMeco knows very well in Trey Lance. Bobby Slowik knows him well as well. Trey Lance versus DeMeco, maybe we see that. Cooper Rush has been announced as the quarterback. Guys I talked to up there say he gives them the best chance to win. But you got to think Trey Lance is on some sort of standby. I don't think that really scares DeMeco. I don't think he's like shivering at the thought of that. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes and what goes down with the Texans. Y'all are arguing like crazy in the chat. We need to get back in the winning ways, so we're happy again. Did feel like a little bit of a kick to the junk when it came to the loss to the Lions, but who knows? We'll figure it out. We're all in this together. 9:00 SNL. We're going to go through the 3 ways to change things, which is realistic, which is unrealistic. And the whole players meeting bit is also interesting as well. Why do they need to do that? Something to keep an eye on. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for coming through.
Daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions to give. We got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.